Good afternoon and good morning also to our audiences on the other side of the pond. We've realized that it's very early morning in New York, but if there's anyone from New York, hopefully you will have your coffee mugs filled up. So let's get going. Today we are discussing AI and specifically AI in the context of the Inclus products. And I'm joined today by my colleagues Juha and Miki. So basically we have both our co-founders here today. And this is also the opportunity for many people here about the product development straight from our CTO, because Juha hasn't been participating in our webinars that much. So this is your opportunity to also ask questions and hear it, so to speak, straight from the horse's mouth as to how the Inclus product is developing, and specifically in terms of AI. So welcome. Just a couple of practicalities before we move forward. We will be recording this webinar, and the recording will be made available to all of you afterwards. And also feel free to interrupt us with your questions. I mean, if you have anything that pops into your mind, just send in questions in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we will try and address the questions on the fly as we go along. But without further ado, gentlemen, the floor is yours, and you can start with introducing yourselves.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't like to introduce ourselves too long. I would actually like to introduce the mission and vision of the company, and maybe we can spread little light on where we're coming from when we are talking about our mission. So we met with Juha at President Martti Ahtisaari's Nobel Peace Laureate private diplomacy organization called CMI, Crisis Management Initiative, good 15 years ago, and we established a methods and tools unit there, exploring different technological tools, how to help conflict parties to understand each other better. And we pretty much forged the idea of Inclus working there. And when we spinned off 10 years ago from CMI, we established the motto, which is building common understanding with technology for Inclus, which is actually more and more relevant for today, which we see in the world marked by division and suspicion in many corners of the world. So we definitely need building common understanding. But there's two aspects of it. I've always wanted people to understand each other better as a political scientist and sort of a conflict researcher. It's been important for me to try to understand why people don't understand each other and how they could be understanding each other better with technology. And Juha can tell a bit about his background, but his mission has been to help people understand complex issues better. And when we sort of matched or merged those two aspirations together, we want to help people to understand complex issues together better. So that's the mission. And with technology, we can see that the mission is more and more relevant, but also more and more possible with the emergence of AI and other technologies, that it becomes more real, that we can actually use technology as a platform to bring people together, but also understand complex issues better. But yeah, Juha, it would be nice to hear how you see our mission. Is it still holding on also on your end?
Yeah, thanks, Miki, and nice to meet you also. I'm Juha Törmänen. I'm the CTO and sort of original tech guy for Inclus since beginning. Still doing lots of coding myself, but also leading the entire product development side here. And my background is indeed in mathematics, systems sciences, but then also decision support, work psychology, and so on. And indeed, when we started, it was mainly sort of how can we collect information together? How can we do for example, information visualization really well and help people that way understand each other. But now with the AI coming, it's sort of going to a whole new level, in my opinion. So not only the quantitative analysis, the information visualization, but also all manner of information can now be shared more effectively. And basically the creativity is the limit on what we can do with AI and with technology now on building common understanding. So super interesting times that we are living in.
Truly, truly. And we go to the sort of practical applications of AI in risk management. We've developed a digital maturity model that we sometimes reflect with our customers where they are in this model. We have a longer checklist on all of these matters and viewpoints, but many companies are still in the sort of digital beginner space where you use spreadsheets or portal type of software, which are not that collaborative in the first place. They're not that intelligent or also even facilitate digital collaboration to any meaningful degree. And we always take the customers at least to the level of digital collaborator. We have a lot of customers who see and are digital forerunners in risk management, sort of creating data flows and collaboration flows across different processes and functions and layers and levels of the organization. But we see that the field is really going towards a AI optimized risk management office, where we at the end of the day have different kind of AI agents and assistants who are helping us in different parts of the risk management process. Not to be relied on the machines ever fully. We need always to make the sort of quality assurance and steering of the process. But this is truly the direction where we are going at, and we have already developed an AI agent that we're gonna show you today, which can do a bunch of the tasks that have been traditionally been the work of one or actually multiple people in the organization, whether it's data collection, analysis, integration, risk registry, management, facilitation, reporting, data analysis, and so on. But we're going to show you some of the techniques that our AI agent can do. We still are exploring our own agent because it can do much more than we can even sort of or have been able to test so far. But we want to do it in a reliable manner, and we want to ensure that the AI is using the data sets correctly. It's proposing good quality proposals and adds value to that process rather than confusion and unclarity. So from this, I think it would be good if you would open a couple of key terminology on this topic before we go to the actual tool. So Juha, would you like to sort of say a couple of words about the risk management and Inclus today?
Yeah, sure. So Inclus has been having AI capabilities for years now. So basically, the first moment the GPT 3.5 model originally came in, and I was actually good enough to support risk management work, we already had some AI capabilities built into the system. But this spring, we've sort of jumped to a new level by adding our own AI assistant that we will be showing today. And at least in my opinion, risk management is kind of the perfect use case for AI and AI assistants, because risk management is done usually by a risk register, which means that the data is completely structured. You have risks and you have information on those. But you can't just let the AI do all of that, because actually the main point is that you are involving people. You are actually spreading in your organization what those risks mean and how they should be handled. And in that way, it's not a simple case, but it's like the most interesting case for AI that I can think of. And there's also the fact that the risk register needs to stay in touch with the real world over time, meaning that you can't just do it once, but it needs to be relevant in 1 year, in 2 years, hopefully in 5 years. So it's a challenging, interesting case. If you've been trying out, for example, Claude, like Claude Cowork lately, you know that sort of doing a one-off risk analysis is quite easy these days. You can just ask, do me a risk analysis, and you get something out. But that's altogether different than, for example, doing a sort of a true participatory living risk management process. something that sort of lives over time and is beneficial to you all the time in the future. And I think that's the thing that Inclus wants to be. So we want to build the sort of best-in-class solution for risk management that will be a sort of your permanent system for managing risks. The other interesting thing for AI, especially the assistant style, is that natural language really allows new creative ways to manage risks and uncertainties. So not only you can do the standard things that everybody has been doing, but you can do all sorts of analysis, update your risks, maintain your registers quite easily this way. And we will be showing you a couple of cases today about that. But of course, when we are doing something like risk assessment or risk management, security is extremely critical. So we don't want the information to leak anywhere. We would prefer, especially in the EU, to keep the data always in the EU so it doesn't disappear somewhere in China or the US for a while. It should be private. It should be compatible with the EU AI Act. And we should be also able to be certain that the AI can't do any huge destruction on the data. And these have been the sort of core building blocks for the Inclus AI. So we have wanted to be able to be secure, private, compatible, and in that way also carefully designed that it actually can't sort of trample over your risk register accidentally in any case. So the user will always be able to approve things and see where things are going. And actually a sort of a fun little note that is not yet completely public is that we were just having our first security penetration test for the AI and actually got full marks. So already we are kind of perfect on the security level at this point, at least based on our security penetration tester outputs, but we will be continuing that way as well. Can I have the next slide, please? So before we start, I'll just go shortly over the terminology in the sense that the AI field is developing super fast at the moment. There's lots of different terms there, and probably not all of these are completely agreed on yet. But the way we see it and what we talk about is that we are talking that there are AI interfaces for using the AI. For example, Inclus is one, but ChatGPT is one, or the Claude Desktop or Claude Cowork is also an interface. And within that interface, there live the AI assistants and agents. In these terms that we use, assistant means a system that directly converses with the user. So it's kind of a human-like AI that you can discuss stuff with. And then there are agents, which can still be quite smart, but they are more like background specialized AIs that do a single task really well. And we have the interface where the assistants and agents live. And then the core sort of processor for the stuff is the language model. And these days, that's already quite interchangeable. Of course, some are better than others. So I think the Claude, Sonnet, and Opus models are the best ones at the moment. OpenAI has its GPT models, Google has Gemini models, and there are actually quite good local models as well these days. So for example, Inclus can already run also on local AI if needed. And we also have some customers doing that. So there are models that can actually do even full assistant work without the data never leaving your own devices. So that is also possible. And it feels like the local models are basically just 1 year behind the frontier models, so to say, the best ones in the commercial space. So in that sense, they will probably be coming along quite nicely. But if we dive sort of deeper into the assistants and agents, how we would like to sort of discuss their specific capabilities is that the AIs have skills, which means that we have kind of like internal instruction manuals for domain-specific knowledge. The AI can, for example, do a really good update on your risk register or a really good analysis on how an external risk or event is affecting your risk register. And then there are AI tools, which are basically different ways that the AI can sort of interface with the real world and the external data. Because by itself, it's just sort of a chat model, so it can answer your questions, but nothing else. But the tools then connect it, for example, to your Inclus risk register, to different documents, document libraries, to different external databases, perhaps for doing web search, researching on the web for more information, and any manner of or any number of different or other applications that you can think of. So these are the kinds of things that we are continuously now developing, thinking new ways of bringing in new tools that can help your risk management while still maintaining the sort of enough information security on all of this. So this is kind of the top level view on what we are talking about when we talk about AI. On to you, Miki.
Thanks. That's a great setup to the talk. Just one slide more, and then we'll go to the tool or 2 slides. Allow me that. But if I sort of summarize the 3 main benefits of AI for risk management, the first one is intelligence. How do we get better information, data, information, knowledge, intelligence embedded into the risk management process? That's the first one. That is a big question. There's a lot of tools, techniques, procedures, how to do that. But that is certainly first one. Then the second is sort of automated workflows or altogether the sort of easiness of managing the risk process, let's say, to reduce manual work, to improve the quality of the descriptions of the risks, sort of have a conversational interface with the risk register and the AI. We're going to show you that soon. And then thirdly, the impactfulness. So all the intelligence and workflows are in vain if you don't have really good mitigation actions and you don't do anything about the risks. And everything should be directed with the action in mind. So how do you link the actions better to the risks and better to the strategy and objectives you have, to the content and context of the organization? And how do you monitor the sort of impactfulness of your mitigation actions? And you can use AI to sort of second guess or propose you additional mitigation actions, because often in even a bit more complicated risks, you really can't typically manage them with one single action. And when you've done that, then you end up in a situation that, hey, is this enough? Probably it's not. So you can have this discussion with an AI. How do you really manage the risk well? Those are the three main points. But maybe to expand a bit on the intelligence point, which is perhaps the sort of less well-known process that should be known by corporations. So there is this picture from the ISO 31050 standard talking about risk intelligence cycle, which is actually originally quite messy picture like this, but we have simplified it by describing the risk intelligence cycle, which is now embedded here to the risk management process with 5 simple steps. So you are doing your risk analysis, and then you end up in a situation that you're not sure how strong your knowledge is on those risks. What are you missing? The first thing is to ask what information we are missing in order to even analyze these risks properly. So have a sort of intelligence requirement process. How do you create those research questions or intelligence questions in a sense? And then where do you collect the data from and how? And then when you've collected it, how do you process it? How do you sort of cluster it? How do you validate the sort of quality of the data? And then how do you analyze it? How do you do those conclusions? And how do you assess the relevance of that information for you? And we see that risk management is the perfect process because it's the one analytical product that becomes at the forefront of the executive committee or in front of the eyes of a management team or board to really look at something analytical. But we want to increase the analytical nature of it so that it's truly based on real world evidence as much as possible. And instead of reporting, we want to sort of bolt the intelligence back into the risk descriptions and data fields that we have in Inclus. And you can use basically whatever techniques and tools on this risk intelligence cycle. So Inclus does some part of it, but you can use whatever tools. But the point is that you need always one tool where you collect that intelligence in a structured and meaningful way. So this was sort of a orientation to the intelligence side of things. If we go to the demonstration of the tool itself and the agent itself, we have an imaginary company called Nordic Components OY Ltd, which is a mid-sized manufacturing company doing machinery and components for European customers, having 600 employees, own production and subcontracting network, deliveries to 15+ countries. So this would be now the context that we are looking at in our own demo here. Let me change now the window, just a second. So if we look at now the risk situation picture, it typically looks something like this, that the companies often want to have some sort of heat maps. And definitely Inclus produces those different kind of visualizations where you can dive in deeper to the data. And you have different kind of risks on strategic risk. You have capacity investment, timing, customer concentration, market demand fluctuation, competitive pressure on operational level. You have production equipment failure, raw material availability, and so on. Different kind of risks. And where we want to end up is, of course, understanding the most critical risks, but also understand how does different departments and stakeholders within the organization see these risks. So we can always visualize the difference of assessments in different departments and people. For example, technological uncertainty in product innovation could have an assessment of likely and large impact. For example, that the bigger worry is locking into underperforming tech for too long, or there might be another person who's seeing that technology risk is ever present, but stable core mitigates the bigger problems, or integrating unfamiliar technologies raises probability of project failure, and so on. So we can understand the different viewpoints to the risk and also conclude and create conclusions with an AI from all of these comments and viewpoints. Inclus can also then show the development of the risk over time. You can also compare the risk score against the opportunities. So you would like to, of course, then mitigate those risks which are having high risk score, but also having large opportunities if we manage them well. And at the end of the day, you want to have a Gantt chart or task management feature where you are seeing where we are with the mitigation. But how do we get to a high level, high quality situational picture? We often engage people to then assess these risks with their perspective on the probability, impact, likelihood, with their comments also in here. And we're going to show you how we enrich this information before we do even the assessment or in between the assessments. And also how do we identify risks as we want to engage stakeholders and individuals to sort of flag, comment, and add new risks that you see that should be on the focus of the company. You can use then AI to create, contextualized and sensible risks to you. So I would give the floor now to Juha to show you 5 different use cases of AI on these matters, and then we can discuss more.
Thanks. Okay, so let's get on to it. When you're using Inclus and you have the AI assistant enabled, you will always have in your process view this little guy on the top right. And if you click it open, you will get the AI chat available. So this is your way of discussing what is happening in your current context where you are. And let's start with sort of a very simple example, like, for example, quite often we are just interested in getting the current up-to-date view. What are our top 5 risks at the moment? So let's ask this one and wait for the AI assistant to load all the risks and see what things are looking like.
Yeah, and here often for example, executive team, they want to have their report, what are our top 5 risks? And so we can create those reports, but now we are conversating also with the risk with the AI.
Indeed. So for example, here we can see that based on the risk score, the top 5 risks are raw material availability, energy price volatility, ERP and digital transformation project failure, skilled labor shortage and changing customer requirements mid-project. With the risk cost being quite high, then its probability times impact, so 25 is the maximum score that you could get, 19 is very high. And of course, when we are discussing with natural language, we don't really have to stop here. So for example, we can quite easily then add a continuation question like, okay, well, we have these top 5 risks, but are we actually managing them at all at the moment? So do we have already tasks for them? And if not, should we add some? So let's have the AI give some suggestions.
Yeah, and actually the prompt was, do we already have sufficient tasks for them? So the AI can propose additional tasks as well, which is always useful.
Indeed. Looks like we get something out, but AI is still thinking a bit more about how to summarize them. So let's wait for a moment. And here they come. So basically what we get out is that it knows that, for example, for the raw material availability, which was the top risk, they are actually 0 tasks at the moment. For energy tasks, energy price volatility, 1 task, and then onwards for the labor shortage, 3 tasks already. Developing workforce attraction and retention program, succession and knowledge transfer plan, and flexible resourcing. So this one is already quite finely handled.
And if you see if you open one of them boxes there, one of the task boxes, there is the step-by-step action plan. That's also created by AI, so we can, when we create those tasks, it can also give you a sort of step-by-step plan, because one of the problems often are that the tasks are a little bit vague or too high level. Where do I start? So the AI helps you to really start, doing something concrete and easy at the beginning.
Indeed. And for example, here the AI has actually suggested 2 new tasks for us for the raw material availability, since it was totally missing any. So here we can see the suggestions. For example, raw material supply risk monitoring and early warning system, and material sourcing and supply diversification. So now we could just click add here to add both of these to the register, ask mitigation actions. And of course, I could just continue chatting here if you wanted to sort of spend more time. I could say that, okay, well, really, we also need to have more tasks for the changing customer requirements risk as well. And the AI would immediately give us more suggestions on what to do.
And we could see that it proposed even the budget for the task, which is of course an assumption at this point, but it's an interesting, because then we can do a cost impact evaluation of the task against the impactfulness of or criticality of the risks. And if you create any data field to the risk description, you can actually create whatever you want, literally. And you have, for example, key risk indicators. It would also propose key risk indicators to the new risk that it's embedding or so, but we can go to that soon.
Yeah. So let's move to a bit more advanced target next. So I think a typical use case for what you need to do with risk management is that you get a bunch of reports out. And you need to think about, does this report somehow affect what we are doing? So for example, here we have a report from the European Code of Auditors called Critical Raw Materials for the Energy Transition, not a rock-solid policy. And it's a 70-page document. Reading this would take some time. If you would read this yourself and then compare that to your risk register, it would probably take you hours to do it properly. But let's instead do it so that we upload it here and we just ask the AI that, hey, please read this report and see if our risk register should be adjusted based on its findings.
And one thing is interesting here, that we have configured the AI assistant here to sort of guide you through. If you're not prompting it properly, it helps you to then clarify your question and the scope and so on. And you can really write this task that you just saw here in multiple ways. So you can ask, like, check out this report, what's important for us, and then it does what you want it to do, or it asks you further questions. Do you want me to look at our risk register and then compare the findings to our risk register? So it's really a conversation that you have with the AI assistant. And often, it's doing twofold things here. It's reading or threefold. It's reading the document, doing a summary out of the document. It's reading the risk registry. And then it's seeing what you should update based on the document, not only add, but update your risk descriptions, for example. And then thirdly, it's proposing you new risks if you are completely missing something out. So this is super interesting that it's actually also updating. It's really properly reading your current risk register, which is helping a lot in this kind of a data comparison. I would say that before AI, I didn't see many organizations who would have spent any research properly, looking at papers and really considering what does it mean to our risks. So this is a let's say new feature to many processes actually.
Yeah, indeed. Probably humans would not have time to read as many, but well, we saw that it took a bit more than a minute for the AI to do it, but it's far less than the 2 hours that would have taken otherwise. But let's see, for example, what Inclus AI did on this. So, of course, it knew immediately that it's an EU special report by reading it and noticing that we already have risks for that available. But then, for example, it identified that, for example, there are new risks that might be worth adding at this point. Dependence on a few CRM producing countries and geopolitical shocks, EU policy uncertainty.
And also if you go a little bit up, interesting finding already there that raw material risk, availability risk is generic and does not explicitly capture concentration risk in specific countries like China, Turkey, or Chile for key inputs relevant to your products. So this is super interesting that it actually contextualizes the information for you well, because it knows your objectives, your strategic objectives, your risks, your operating models. It knows your market and countries and so on. So this is the bit of risk intelligence and open source intelligence that has been lacking. How do you make the information relevant to you? But yeah, please go forward.
Hey, guys, can I interrupt you while we're discussing this report specifically? There's one question from the audience I'm reading out loud. When analyzing the external report against your risks, how well does AI understand your company strategy / operations / capabilities? Or is it only reviewing the report against the risk registry?
That's a very good question. At the moment, you can include a sort of your own company context to the system. In this example, it's a sort of a one paragraph text describing the company and how it works. But this is also something that will be coming in the Q2 update for Inclus, and we will go back to that later this webinar to discuss in more detail about how you can make the AI read much more about your company and use that to support the analysis. But that's indeed actively coming right now.
Yeah, the full context, so the description tool, but you can already, if you allow the access to the internet, also provide your websites to the AI, or you can give your annual report to it and then see what risks it would be first looking for you based on that, and then it takes also in consideration what you have in your risk registry based on what you just inputted with your annual report, for example. But a great question.
Yep. So yeah, we can also say that in addition to new risks, the AI is suggesting that maybe some of the existing risks should be sharpened, linked somehow to different things. Some key implications for Nordic components on what the report means, and some suggested next steps. So now we could again continue adding new risks to the system or enhancing the current ones and so on. But for today, let's move onwards so we don't run out of time. The next is sort of maybe my favorite part, which is something that I know many customers have trouble with, or many companies have trouble with when managing risk registers, which is that if you are doing it for years and years, it's always fun to invent new risks, but nobody likes to actually sort of clean up the old ones. So you end up with hundreds of risks that may not be perfect for you anymore. Some should need revising, some need archiving, some need merging, and so on. And actually, this is one of the cases where the AI is super good at supporting you. So,
yeah, we did it for our own risk register. I think we had like 80 something, and then we ended up with 30 risks. So, but you can sort of set the ambition. Now there's a generic question like how to maintain and what should be reworked or merged and removed. But you can set targets like I want to reduce the number of risks to 30. How would you merge the risks? But often it's perhaps better to give the AI the possibility just first to look at how it would be sort of reviewing it and perhaps harmonizing the risk language and so on. But let's see what it proposed.
Let's see. Let's again scroll back to the top. So in this case, of course, it's a demo, so it's kind of coherent, up-to-date, and well-written already. The AI doesn't see immediately need to remove any risks, but there are things to improve. Like, for example, it immediately sees that there are some things that are kind of overlapping: customer risks, cybersecurity, GDPR stuff, key talent versus informal knowledge kind of things. So sort of things where we could sort of probably manage with fewer risks than we have currently. Or we can just sort of keep them as it is or merge them so the AI can give immediate suggestions on what to do. Then there are things like maybe some risks could be benefiting from a minor rework. So maybe we could clarify, for example, geographic market concentration, if it's only about country level concentration or all sorts of political or regulatory hotspots at the same time.
That's a good one.
And then also, for example, there could be something like, is mergers and acquisitions disruption currently relevant or not? So could we actually archive it for now? So this is kind of a 1 minute way of immediately seeing if there's anything to do to clean up the register somehow. But I think today we won't be doing a full cleanup on Nordic components, but we'll go and check something else. The next demo is
now you could, if you would like to, it could now do the merging. For example, it proposes the pairs 2 and 21, and then it proposes that do you want to keep either of them, or do you want me to create a new one and then I can archive you the old ones? But it also keeps a full log of the action. So we only give the permission to archive, not remove any data from the system. And then of course there's always human in the loop, so the AI doesn't do those actions before you then approve and approve those actions. But it's super fast to do it when it just proposes all of those risks to merge. You then just say update and so on.
Yeah, indeed. And then one thing that the AI is also really good at is that if there are important external events and you just immediately want to know how is this event affecting you. Like, let's say that we would decide or see that it's likely that the Strait of Hormuz will be closed for shipping for yet another month. What does that mean for us at the moment? So let's just have the AI analyze this, and basically just one question, 2 sentences, but because the AI has enough contextual information about what this means and it knows our full risk register, it can read all the stuff. It can now compare that and see what happens.
Yeah, and also we can sort of stress test the immediate effects that for example the situation in Iran might have on our risks, but we can also create sort of full scenario descriptions or options or different scenarios on Iran. For example, we've done that for a couple of customers where we then have a 12 months view perspective, for example, and what would be then the most likely of those scenarios and how it would be affecting the overall risk situation picture. So you can create and use different kinds of scenarios naturally.
Indeed. And yeah, here we get an analysis of the most affected risks, how they would be affected. So it can also suggest something like any material source via the Gulf region will be affected, logistics will be delayed, energy prices will go up, and so on. So you get the sort of immediate analysis on what it means for you.
Juha, we have another question, if this is a good moment for you to address it. Again, I'm reading out loud. Can the AI assist risk aggregation of single risks to a higher organizational level?
Yeah, that's also a good question. The current first version of the assistant is focused on one Inclus process at a time. So basically, of course, if you have a process where there are multiple levels, you can collate them together and analyze them together, and it can sort of compile the stuff there. And the part where you can actually draw in different processes in Inclus and build a dashboard and have the AI analyze that part is something that we are actively developing at now. And we will also come back to that in the roadmap part in roughly 5 minutes or so, I think. I can describe what we are thinking about there.
Yeah, and already currently we can do that if you have multiple parallel risk processes. For example, different factories or business units are doing their own risk assessments, and you want to aggregate or consolidate similar risks for the group level, that you have, for example, different kind of cyber risks in the corporation here and there. We can create tags, for example, that would then you can ask the AI to automatically describe those into new tags or taxonomies, let's say. So we can then use the dashboard feature where we then only show the consolidated picture. So you might have 20 cyber risks, which are only showing as one cyber risk on a group level, aggregating or consolidating all those risks into one. So that can be already done, but we are further developing that feature.
Yeah, indeed. The CTO always thinks of the new, even fancier features coming up, even though we can do lots of stuff already.
Truly.
Hey, again, sorry to interrupt. We have 3 new questions, which is great. Keep them coming. Shall we do it so that you just run through the presentation, what you have left of it, and let's address the questions like towards the end then?
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds good. So maybe we will already answer some of them before we get to the Q&A part. And let's continue one more demo, and then I will talk a bit about the roadmap, which we have already referred to a couple of times. So a different kind of thing we can do in addition to just the assistant is also to have the AI help us quickly fill in new tasks, for example. So let's, for example, come back to the raw material availability, which has been the sort of top risk for this discussion. And now we decided, okay, we want to have a task that we should be sourcing alternative channels for our materials. So let's add a new task, but I'm lazy. I just want to type in 2 words, nothing more. So AI, please fill it in for me. So 1 click, and we got a sort of full task name. We got a long description what it means, and let's also get an action plan out for it. So like this, 1 minute, and now we already have 1 task about what to do to handle the raw material stuff. So this is the kind of way that you can, when you actually do your own work in Inclus, you can use the autofill with the AI, and the AI will be then also aware of the context of your company and what it means to your system in general. So you can get sort of very good immediate suggestions on what to do and how to update the information fields that you have.
And if you scroll a little bit below the task, you can then ask the AI to create completely new tasks as well with the suggested tasks. So we have multiple places with quick access to certain AI tools, like identify new risks or identify new actions and tasks. So you don't have to always ask the AI to do that. So you can just click, give me new tasks. So that's, for example, now proposing implement inventory buffer policies and so on. So you can just select these and then create new tasks out of them as well. So different means how to do this.
Yep, indeed. So shall we go back to the PowerPoint slide then and continue on the deck?
Yes, let me do that.
Okay, so I'll give a quick overview of where we are in the AI roadmap right now for Inclus and what we are doing next. So like mentioned, the AI Assistant was released actually roughly 1 month ago, and it already is sort of capable of full interaction with the risk register that you use. And now we have been actively and continuously improving the capabilities. So sort of certainly not stopping here, but continuing improving in different ways. And the next major update will be coming this summer, probably around midsummer, so end of June, when we will be implementing a retrieval augmented generation, so the RAG system for Inclus. So that will mean that you can do semantic search for risks and tasks. You don't need to know the exact wording. You can just ask something like bad weather, and it will give you all the climate answers back. And you can add document libraries, which will be the major thing there. So you can, for example, add strategic documents for your company to a document library, and the assistant can then read from there what are the priorities for you, how your company works, and so on. And they take that into account when giving suggestions. And do you want to say something, Miki?
Yeah, and one thing to mention, we've already utilized RAG on sort of separate tool and then embedded the data into Inclus, but now we are creating a tool out of it. Or how would you describe it? Is it a tool? Yeah, probably a tool out of it within Inclus. One case that we did was with an oil and sort of biofuel company that they had 30,000 incidents from the past 3 years, incident reports, which we then sort of created into a vector database with RAG technique, and then clustered and sort of did a factor analysis on how many different kind of relevant risk categories we could identify out of those 30,000 risks, and we came up with about 100 new sort of risk categories that they were then reflected back to the risk registry and audit reports to inform what was missing in both the risk register, and they also modified their audit process in significant ways based on our analysis. So that was really one very promising case.
Yeah, indeed. And that's a kind of a fun thing that Inclus can do, because we have a long-standing cooperation with Aalto University here in Espoo and good connections to the professors there. So we also get sort of top-level research support on how to do these kinds of things, of not only doing this same thing that people do otherwise, but also take the next level after that point. So for example, this spring we have had a group of master students studying how we can do semantic data analysis, clustering, and so on inside Inclus. And that's the kind of thing that Miki also here sort of referred to, of being able to just not only do the vectors, but then cluster them, analyze them, visualize them back after that point. And that's something that will be coming later this year and early next year, and which will probably be quite unique at that point. Before that point, we will also be focusing on assessment and analysis support. So the AI can already read the scores and analyze those, but hopefully in the autumn, it can also help you to then update your risk scores. So it will know enough about your risks and the assessments that it can actually support you in maintaining the scoring, pointing out, hey, maybe you want to update this part, or otherwise sort of make your life easier on updating the risks. And after these sort of major blocks at the bottom, we are also leaving, for example, for dashboards. So indeed, AI supporting building different views on how to combine different processes, how to configure your Inclus process better, so the AI can also help there, do adjustments there, for example, add new assessment criteria to your system, and on different integrations. So this is something we are much looking forward, and it's the sort of maybe one of the biggest development areas in the AI right now. How you can, for example, link different AI assistants together in different systems and have them talk to each other. So of course, our idea is that eventually we will enable this for the customers who need it. So they can have the integration between their, for example, their Copilot and the Inclus AI Assistant. But that's still much in development. And then the semantic data analysis already mentioned. So once we can actually understand quantitatively what the semantic space means for the risks, we can then do clustering analysis, factor analysis, and so on to really understand how those risks join together, relate to each other, and what do they mean in total. So super interesting stuff for a mathematician like me.
Fantastic. So we have a bunch of questions, right? So I guess you can read from the Q&A section.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe that's faster because there's the bunch. So if you can just read them.
Yeah, maybe if we take, I think we ended up with, we answered Ansgar already, and Juha sent another question, Juha Usva. So beside the demonstrated tasks, e.g. cleaning up, can you use the AI in more generic LLM way, prompting through a dialogue, and does it have memory, e.g. external report? Can it, e.g. use it when considering if something could be cleaned or modified? We've tested it. Yeah, maybe if I answer from my part, we've tested the AI agent really to have a discussion in a more generic way. You can have any kind of discussion with the AI agent pretty much. Of course, it's tool to support to your risk register, but yeah, we have been using it to, for example, to refine what would be interesting questions for us, what kind of data sources we should be looking for in the internet if we want to find proper information about the risks and so on. So I would say that yes, you can use it in a more generic LLM way as well. But Juha, do you want to fill it?
Yeah, that's a good answer. It doesn't have memory, so to say, that it would remember between chats currently. That's something we are considering right now. But we believe that the RAG system, as we are building it, will sort of create a more permanent organizational memory for you to use. So you can have the sort of core information available for your processes, and they are then always available, and you can update them as needed. So that will be helping a lot on that side. And if I move to the next one, Eric is asking about can the AI assistant research the web and use constantly 24/7 for potential and real risks concerning the cooperation? Currently, the assistant is, for information security purposes, not able to initiate anything, so it will only respond to your requests. Because one of the big security vectors here is that if the AI would be doing its own thing, it could, for example, eventually start sending out search queries that actually contain your private information, and we certainly do not want that. But this is a very good question in the sense that we could, of course, have this kind of an AI agent running behind that collects the information for you and gives you new input. So it actually could not even accidentally leak your information outside, but it could bring new stuff in. So I feel like we got a good feature idea out of this immediately.
Yeah, and we do have now an AI agent that is allowed to the internet, but then at this point we have been agreeing with the client that those risks that we are monitoring are in a sense public, that we can then send any kind of queries to the internet with their risk data, because in reality, you know, your queries to the internet can expose also a lot what you're interested in. So that can expose also what are your risks. So we have to concern that, but we can do it, and we are actually monitoring a set of monitoring topics to strategic assumptions of a company, where we update their strategic assumptions behind the risk assessments and behind their strategy, actually, not with 24/7 real time, but we can do it every morning if we want with a couple push of a button already. So that is possible already, but the sort of automated queries or monitoring is also a good ambition for us.
Indeed. Alper Arika is asking about interconnecting this to business process mapping applications, and I think that relates to the integrations box at the bottom here. So then those applications will enable their own interfaces for AI agents to converse with. And once we enable ours, I think it should be easily possible then to allow these connections and to be able to get the data to one direction or both directions. Miki, do you want to answer the next one about how to use AI for KRI identification and follow-up?
Yeah, I'm actually just fetching it. I was thinking if I'm fast enough, I can show you quickly one example out of it. But the short answer is yes, you can. Let me see if I have this one. Is this one a good one? Yeah, so if I share 1 minute, just a quick illustration about that. So here you can create sort of custom data fields of which one can be key risk indicators and one can be the available information of those key risk indicators. And it has been burdensome for people to first of all even think about the risk indicators because it's analytically challenging. What is indicating the change on disruptive innovation or whatever? So the AI can easily create you the key risk indicators. For example, loss of key personnel, it's not here yet, so we can ask the AI what would be the key risk indicators, the employee turnover rate, naturally, succession plan coverage, employee engagement score. Maybe this is more of a, I would say this is more of a task, but I would maybe keep these 2 ones here. And then naturally we should have information, for example, the employee engagement surveys that we have, and then we can answer the question, what is the score and what it tells about our risk, and we can ask the AI to fill in also the available evidence on this key risk, but we should have first the data available. So, but that's possible, and when we do have it, then it can create and fetch from that data. Here now it's just a generic example, doing a demonstration out of a sort of generic language model, but we can have the evidence embedded to the AI and then asking what is the evidence for the risk on loss of key personnel. So we can do it. What's the next question? We have only 3 minutes, so maybe
I will answer a couple of very quickly. There was an ask of can we share the prompts used during this demo, so I think we certainly can send them to you afterwards, the examples we used here. There's the question about can we use the AI to analyze assessment results, including comments and proposed topics. Like I said, that's on active development right now, so not in production, but I know that our AI engineer is right now working on this part. So it will be coming soon and will be available certainly during this summer or early autumn by the latest. There was asking a question about showing an executive report. I think we are running out of time, so we don't have time to show that unless you have one immediately available.
Yeah, it's here. So you can create multiple reports out of the same data, and then you can create different kind of data blocks within the tool, and then you can share it with either link or then even sort of report straight out of the tool, so you can have the sort of general conclusions, the direction of the risks, how they are evolving over time, what is mitigation status of the risks, and so on. Whatever data you want to have, basically, you can easily select to the report.
Yeah, thanks. And I think that also answers Eric's other question about is it possible to align the design in compliance with the corporate marketing profile. So they can be customized, and if you would need a certain visual language as well, that can be customized partly. And if you want to get a sort of a customized Inclus server, you can even do the complete UI makeover to make it look exactly like your own company.
Truly. Fantastic, great questions, and I think that we can then move to the sort of last bit with Irmeli on telling what's ahead at Inclus.
Yeah, lots of things, but very, very quickly, our next event will be taking place in June. Actually, we will have a couple of events or webinars in June. We will just be discussing another one like after this this webinar, essentially. So more information to come about that one. And if you're interested in a demo, like from your perspective and your organization's particular perspective, then just follow the QR code and we will be happy to demonstrate Inclus for you. And also, this is a teaser, we are working on an AI ebook. It's not quite ready yet, but it's also coming up, so stay tuned. Yeah, go ahead, Miki.
I'm also going to have a couple of nice, interesting substance webinar on geopolitics and scenario planning, and experts from the US will join me. And then also probably a former generalist talking about risk intelligence with me in the coming month or months.
Indeed. So welcome to join. But anyway, we are 1 minute over time. Many thanks for everyone who joined us today, and thanks specifically for the great questions that you shared. Very nice to have a lively conversation. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Juha and Miki.
Indeed. Thank you so much for staying tuned and being active and sending us a lot of questions. We are here for you if you're interested in talking more, and surely we can share you the prompts that were asked also in the Q&A section. So have a nice evening and day to the other side of the pond. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.